So, Alex, let's start with you on the details of this. Why does this make sense?
It makes sense from the sense that both of these companies are legacy tech companies whose main core businesses are not growing nearly as fast as they once were. And they come together because they have complementary products. So, and this is the message you've really been hearing from both of these companies this morning. Dell's IT enterprise business focuses on small and medium-sized businesses. EMC has a much better go-to-market strategy, much better relationships with large businesses. So you put these two together and you combine Dell's server business with EMC's storage business, and you have a really large, formidable competitor with major cross-selling opportunities that neither of these companies has as an independent company. Plus, EMC gets the benefit of being a private company because Michael Dell will run the company. Dell is private. And Joe Tucci, the EMC CEO, is 68 years old. They've been looking for a successor for a while. They've been getting a lot of pressure from activist investor Elliott, and this is a way out for him. This way he doesn't have to spin off VMware, and he gets a very well-known, well-respected successor in Michael Dell, at least well-respected at times, I suppose. It depends on when you ask. Michael Dell's reputation does tend to go up and down.
Yes, as with the markets, it has. Okay, Alex, hang on. So, Dan, I think Alex just broad-stroked the benefits. But look, the negative of this is, look, these are two aging companies. Do two aging companies equal one formidable competitor?
Yeah, these are two horse and buggies in the right lane. I mean, EMC has been a disaster for the last few years. And finally, it was a rose-colored board, a rose-colored Tucci. Elliott was really the one that put the back against the wall. Clock was about to strike 12. I mean, I view this as a 1 + 1 = 1.5 situation overall. I mean, these companies are just way behind the game in cloud, big data, as well as next-gen storage. They had to do it because, from EMC's perspective, they had no choice. Their back was against the wall. Dell comes in like a white knight. And EMC holders, it's the best of a bad situation. And this is really going to have ramifications across tech, given the $70 billion acquisition that we're seeing.
But, Alex, why merge at a time when it seems like practically every big tech giant is looking to split up or sell off assets?
Well, of course, that was the other option on the table here for EMC. Elliott was pushing to spin VMware, and EMC's management firmly believed that that was not the right play, that VMware had a lot of synergies within the so-called federation of EMC. There are a lot of different companies that EMC has acquired over the years, and VMware is the biggest growth company of the federation. So they didn't want to spin off that and be left with a bunch of stuff that wasn't nearly as valuable with higher growth prospects. So the idea of merging is sort of the other side of the coin here. So either you split or you sort of kick the can down the road, in essence, by putting two legacy companies together and generating revenue synergies that way. So we've seen more of the split-up scenario, but we've also seen a little bit, or at least attempts at, the other side of this. Remember, HP and EMC almost came together last year. Yeah. And we'll have to see now, and this is to that last point that Daniel was making, we'll have to see if either Oracle or Cisco decides, you know what, now that this deal's been done, maybe we need to look at larger deals, or maybe we even need to look at EMC. There is a go shop provision in this, so they have about 30 days to try to put together a competing bid to Dell.
Dan, we know that PC sales have been sliding overall for the industry, but also for Dell. And Jim Chanos earlier on Bloomberg Go referred to that industry. I want you to hear what he said about that.
It's just a tough space. I mean, we're back to decelerating revenues in PCs and services for most of these companies, and so they're looking for growth anywhere they can find it. And it looks like Dell's back to acquisitions to do it. But deflation is again the key word in this space.
Agree?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are just massive headwinds in PC. I don't think they're ever coming back. That's why they had to make a transformational acquisition from Dell's perspective to morph into an enterprise company. And this was really, EMC was in a position that I view as weak. Dell viewed it from a position of strength with Silver Lake and a few other partners. That's why they had to morph into the enterprise. The PC business we've seen with Microsoft, Intel across the board.
It's just NHP.
I mean, a disaster would be a compliment in terms of just how bad it's been.
Right.
And I think this just speaks to why EMC and Tucci finally, after years of a disaster situation, had to capitulate it, and they could put on a good show. But ultimately, there is going to be an Everest-like battle to integrate this acquisition.
So what do you think could be sold off, though, in this merger?
Yeah, so I think ultimately they're going to sell off RSA, which is the security piece.
Okay.
I think they also sell off the Pivotal, which is that joint initiative between VMware and EMC, as well as selling off some of their EMC stake. I mean, if you're an EMC, if you're a VMware shareholder, this is really a bad dream that you're waking up to, and you see that in the stock today. So then they sell part of that VMware, they sell the Pivotal, RSA, potentially the Documentum. They get all those non-core pieces. And also, there's a lot of fat in this company. They could really cut. And I think
EMC.
Yeah, I think the private equity, I mean, they're going to be doing that. So that's why it's about cutting it, focus on the crown jewels, and let's see what happens in terms of Dell and EMC. But ultimately, they should move their headquarters to Delray Beach, Florida. I mean, it's at this point, it's a geriatric type company that we're seeing here, and they've really missed out on a lot of these trends.
I'm not finding it very appealing at this point. Alex, before we go, I know there's an option for EMC to speak to other bidders. Could there be other bidders that come out?
There might be. I don't think it will be HP, which might be at the top of everyone's list. They sort of went down this road a year ago, didn't come out with a deal, and the sources I've spoken to have said highly unlikely. And in fact, HP came out with a public statement today and basically said, look, you know, these two companies are sort of stuck in the slow lane while we're coming out with sort of AWS type features. We're embracing the cloud. These two legacy dinosaurs are coming together. We're more nimble. We're, of course, splitting up our company. So I would be highly, highly surprised if HP is the one. Cisco and Oracle may be slightly more likely, but they don't have a lot of time. And remember, if Cisco or Oracle really wanted to buy EMC, they've had a year to do it or so.
Right.
From the information we've gotten, these negotiations between EMC and Michael Dell actually started in January or February of this year and didn't really heat up until July. But still, clearly they've had a long time to decide if they wanted to buy EMC, they could.